Hey, I found this article. I found it the other day, but I wanted to talk about it a little bit. The dude's name is Jason Gaddis, and I'll put a link to the article below. But he was talking about advising people not to get married unless you could do three things, right? And the three things were understand your childhood trauma, embrace conflict, and stay involved with self learning. And the article resonated with me because as a practicing marriage and family therapist, that's where I see people have the most problems in those areas. And I wanted to just add a little bit to that. I wanted to kind of highlight what he was saying and give a little bit about my experience with that. Um, and I have experience in two ways. I have my own experience as a recovering human being, and then I have experience as a trained professional working in those areas. And so I would say that the information that he's providing is not just good in relationships with other people. It is really good there for sure, but it's also good to consider being able to be more competent in those areas for any other thing you might want to try to do, like be on a job or create a business or uh, have any sort of relationship or create something new for yourself. You got to be able to manage those three things: childhood trauma, conflict, and learn about yourself. Because in relationships, a lot of times the reason why our relationships don't work is because we haven't done a good enough job dealing with our childhood trauma. And it makes sense because when you're traumatized, the number one thing the person needs to do is get up and get moving again. And we want to, intuitively, I think we want to try to avoid things that make us feel uncomfortable. And so we'll bury it and repress it. And then we'll actually enter into relationships as a means of trying to make ourselves feel better and also either consciously or unconsciously avoid the trauma that we've experienced. And then we find out when we get in relationships and we're really like let down by this is that the trauma comes up again. And it's usually triggered by the person that we're in the relationship with. And that's not just true for relationships with people. It could be a job, it could be some other project that you're trying to work on. Your childhood trauma, the way you see yourself, the way you see the project, the way you see your relationship with it it's all affected by childhood trauma and the meaning that we placed on childhood trauma. And then the other conflict, man, conflict is a part of life. If you're involved with somebody and you're even yourself, if you're trying to do something and you're not running into conflict, well, conflict is a part of it. If you want more money in your bank account this year than you had last year, it places you in a direct conflict with your own behavior and beliefs about what's going to be necessary. So when we get involved with people, conflict is a part of that. I often tell couples that I see if we eliminate the conflict, we kill the relationship. It's not the conflict that's the problem, it's the way that I deal with it. It's my conflict tactics. It's my raising my voice, it's intimidating other people, withdrawing, name calling, becoming verbally or emotionally or physically abusive because I got a difference of opinion, not being able to talk about stuff because I become too rattled by it. I become flooded real easy, and my heart rate and blood pressure go up, and I can't get my words out. I can't express myself. And I think that's someone else's fault. It's easier for me to look out. We can use a lot of blame, and blame is a way to discharge shame and guilt. So unless I get into my childhood trauma and learn about myself, self learning, you can learn a lot of stuff. But if you don't know anything about yourself, it's almost useless because there is this place that requires emotional intelligence. You know, we got a lot of smart people sitting in jail now, or uh, out of relationships and lonely because they cannot manage their emotions. They don't have the awareness, self-awareness, to be able to manage themselves in the two situations I said earlier. Manage yourself around your childhood trauma, and manage yourself in a conflict. When the conflict starts, the number one thing you have to do is manage your own behavior. So if you're not aware of what you do, and I don't mean that you are to blame for the conflict. I'm just saying that when the conflict starts, you have to manage your own behavior, because conflict tactics are contagious. If you throw a F-bomb, it's quite likely that the person you're talking to is going to throw one. If you become dysregulated and flooded, a lot of times that's the only reason why the other person is doing it, because they're picking up your emotional state and they're matching you. We had, I could go into it. We got mirror neurons, right? When you smile at a baby, the baby smiles back because he has mirror neurons. Well, we have those. Anyway, yeah, those three areas. So I just wanted to say something about that. I haven't made a video in a while, but I'm trying to make a comeback now. But anyway, if you need help with that kind of stuff. Oh, let me say one other thing about that. Let me say one other thing about conflict. Let me say one other thing about self-knowledge. And let me say one other thing about childhood trauma. If nobody shows you how to deal with those things and be better, you won't be able to figure it out by yourself. You won't. You need help. We are wired for relationships. We're wired. We're just like the infant born into the world, ignorant, naked, dependent. We don't get much better than that. We still need help. We still need somebody to talk to us. We still need somebody to guide and direct us, to help us. We are interdependent with other people. If you think you can do it on your own, good luck. So anyway, till next time.